Let's move on to the mobility base to which the seating components will attach. This is Module 1. We will discuss the critical points for the wheeled mobility assessment for both manual and powered wheelchairs. The wheeled mobility material is divided into 4 modules. Module 1 covers the critical points for assessment for both manual and powered wheelchairs. Module 2 covers manual mobility bases and their associated features. Module 3 covers powered mobility bases, including base designs, motors, and drive wheel locations. Module 4 covers powered wheelchair driver controls, along with case examples. As in the seating and positioning modules, each of these modules is designed to be no more than 30 minutes in length and includes the points to ponder section at the end. This includes things to think about. There is no assignment for this set of modules, so you do not need to submit anything for this topic at any point. As we noted in the seating and positioning assessment, the mobility assessment continues to be client-centered and client-driven. One of the most critical factors centers on what the individual wants to be able to do. The answer to this question helps the assessment team create a list of features for the mobility base. An assessment of the individual's functional abilities is key to creating this feature list. We will discuss specific issues to consider in the slides to follow. An assessment of the individual's physiological capabilities is critical to determining what, if any, types of special features like tilt in space, recline, sit to stand are essential to the individual's function. Other critical issues that formulate this feature list include the mobility device features that the individual wants and needs, things like the chair style, rear wheel tires and position, weight of frame, to name a few. In addition, how the individual plans to transport the device is extremely important. This determines if the chair needs to fold for transport, if there's a lift, if the individual transfers out of the chair for travel, or if he or she will remain in the chair during transport. The accessibility of the environment in which the individual uses the device is just as critical to this process to know how and where the device can or cannot be used. We'll look at all of these issues in more detail in the slides that follow. As we begin to create this feature list for the mobility base, let's first focus on use of a manual wheelchair and consider how the individual will propel the chair. Will the propulsion method be assisted in that a caregiver pushes the chair, or independent? If the individual independently propels the chair, how does he or she do it? The top left photo is of a woman who uses her bilateral upper extremities to propel the chair. The top right photo is of a woman who uses her bilateral lower extremities to propel the chair. The bottom right photo is of a woman who uses one upper and one lower extremity to propel the chair. And the bottom left photo is of a man who uses one upper extremity to propel the chair. This chair is fit with a one-arm drive attachment, which is a mechanism that connects the control and movement of one wheel to the opposite wheel, so that the individual can use one hand to manipulate both wheels. In this photo, the outermost circle of the wheel, the light gray area, is the tire. The next inner circle, a bit darker gray area, is the wheel rim for the right wheel, and the next inner circle, the darker gray, is the rim used to move the left wheel. The individual must be able to manipulate both rims at the same time in order to move the chair in a straight path of travel. This may not sound impossible, but try it yourself, just like we recommended that you sit on the seat cushions to understand them better as well. You will likely notice that manipulating 2 rims simultaneously is a very thought-laden process. You really need to think about what you are doing and have the motor ability to do it. You can imagine that it is very important that when this is considered as a key feature of the mobility base for the person, that the person have the opportunity to try it during evaluation before it is recommended or purchased for the person. The gentleman in this photo arrived to his evaluation in a wheelchair with a one-arm drive attachment and had been driving his wheelchair with a one-arm drive attachment for many years. He was amazing in his use of the chair. Therefore, it was a given fact that his new wheelchair would have the one-arm drive attachment as well. Now, I would love to say that access to a wheelchair frame with a one-arm drive attachment is as easy as access to any other basic manual wheelchair. It is not a typical feature that is on a wheelchair manufacturer's demo line. We recently worked with a manufacturer's rep to acquire a manual wheelchair with a one-arm drive attachment And instead of asking him to have an entire frame with a dedicated one-arm drive, we asked if he could get just the one-arm drive attachment that could be attached to more than one of his demo chairs. This made it more feasible for him to acquire the mechanism and to allow the device to be installed and removed based on the evaluation need. Just remember that it is so important to have the individual try the one-arm drive wheelchair before it is ordered. It goes back to my question from the seating material in Module 1. Who among you would buy a car without test driving it first? This is a specialty feature, and unless the person has known experience with it, they need to be able to try it. Other things that need to be considered for this feature list are things like seat to floor height. The woman in the far left photo uses her feet to propel her wheelchair. Imagine if the frame were too high for her to reach the floor. Could she effectively and independently move her chair? Look at the woman in the center slide. During her evaluation for a new wheelchair, she stated that all that mattered to her was that she could fit at her table to eat her lunch and do her work. Imagine if the frame were too high to allow her to fit under the table. How would that affect her function? Look at the man in the slide on the right. He independently propels his wheelchair with both of his upper extremities. How does the current configuration look to you? The rear wheels are way too far behind him for him to ever have the chance to achieve an efficient, effective, injury-free push. He is sitting so far forward of those rear wheels that independent propulsion, while not impossible, is very difficult. There are wheelchair frames that have an adjustable rear wheel axle that allows the rear wheel to be moved forward or backward to configure the frame for optimal weight distribution and wheel access. Okay, let's not forget about the environment. Where does the individual intend to use the chair? Primarily indoors, like the woman in the slide on the right? If so, what is the flooring like? Is it linoleum, low pile carpet, high pile carpet? And you thought that just answering the question of will it be used indoors with a simple yes was enough. As I noted once before, never accept a simple answer to the simple question. The conversation must continue. Will the person use the chair primarily outdoors, or a good combination of indoors and outdoors? Will they traverse uneven grassy terrain like our young woman in the slide on the far left, and concrete like the woman in the slide in the center? She was planning to attend a large rural college campus, so during the evaluation, she tried the chair outside on the grassy area in front of our building. Sure, it's an urban setting, but that grassy area is hugely uneven and very much a variety of dirt patches, gullies, and thick grass. As an aside, the woman in the center slide is the mother of the young woman on the left. Because she was such an integral part of the evaluation and decision-making process, we thought it would be beneficial for her to try out the chairs on the same terrains that her daughter would need to traverse. This helped her assist her daughter with the final decision regarding the base. Where the individual resides and whether the residence is accessible to a wheelchair at an entrance as well as within the residence itself is critical. The housing in the city, any city, is quite alike in that it is typically tall and narrow and not built for accessibility. Many residences in Chicago include stairs to the first level or to a basement or garden apartment. While most people think the addition of a ramp will solve this problem, the issue is far more involved than that. When you look at the material on home modifications and accessibility, you will learn that according to code, for every 1 inch of rise, there must be 1 foot of run. So think about it for a second. If the first floor porch is 5 feet from the ground, like in the photos on the left, how long will that ramp need to be? That's right, long enough to end up across the street. Hence, the quick installation of a ramp is not so easy anymore. The photo and its inset on the right are of a home with a vertical platform lift. This allows the individual to start out at ground level and travel vertically to the first floor level. Of course, space, cosmetics, and safety are always considered. We need to remember that an individual may live in a residence, like one of those pictured here, and use a manual wheelchair. They may have a family member bump them up and down the stairs, albeit not safe or recommended, in order to get in and out of their home. While this may be, quote-unquote, accessible to them, it is truly not accessible to the manual wheelchair and would be totally inaccessible to a powered wheelchair. Lots of questions, ask lots of questions.